You gotta love AMG. This is the all-new 2019 Mercedes GLC63. It's an SUV of a pretty small size, but it's the only one in the segment with a V8 under the hood, a bi-turbo V8 at that. The main competitors in the segment is the Porsche Macan Turbo and the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. They both have 6 cylinders though. I'm an AMG owner myself. I have a C63 AMG. Now this is the SUV version of that car, and in today's video, although it might be slightly biased, I'm going to explain why the GLC63 is the best AMG SUV that you can currently buy. And we're of course going to start this video with talking about the most important thing, which is the engine. This is the 4-liter bi-turbo V8 that you now find across the board for all the AMG vehicles with a V8, the C, the E, and the S class. Now, the GLC, you can get it in 2 variants when it comes to the engine, and that is the 63 that we have today, and then also the 63S. This has 469 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. The S version comes with 503 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. And again, I mean, you just gotta love it. Look how crammed this is. AMG was like, yeah, we probably should put a 6-cylinder in here, but forget that. We're still gonna put the V8, which makes the GLC completely unique in the segment. While the main competitors have 6 cylinders, this is just on a different level, especially when you start it up. That's right, it has that very distinctive AMG V8 sound coming from dual quad tip exhaust pipes. Now the GLC comes in 2 versions. This one here, which is the more regular looking SUV version, and then also in a coupe, as Mercedes calls it, although it looks more like a hatchback slash turtle, whatever it is, the uglier version, that's what I call it. Now something that is kind of weird is that you have to go with this coupe version of the GLC to be able to have an S model, meaning you have the 503 horsepower instead of 469. You have dynamic engine mounts, little different interior options and so on. In Europe, it's not this way, but in my personal opinion, it's this model of the GLC that looks the best, but it's only available as a 63 and not a 63S. Now for 2019, we also have the new front fascia, which is the Panamericana grille, and it's to each its own if they like this better than the 2018 models of the C-Class. Personally, I'm actually starting to like it. It looks pretty good. It was initially introduced for the AMG GT. Now we got LED headlights as well, although this isn't the full LED headlight package that you can get. As we can see here, this is an LED projector bulb right there. This is halogen, if I'm not mistaken. Now you can of course pick different wheel options when you're speccing your GLC. Our tester today has the 21-inch forged wheel option, and they look fantastic. They're also fitted with the proper tires. These are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. We got 295/35 in the rear and 265/40 up front. Now, as the GLC is a little smaller version of a Mercedes SUV, there's still plenty of room here in the back. You can fit several golf clubs, tons of groceries, and at least one bald Swedish man. Now, another great feature is the kicking motion. If you find yourself with your hands filled with grocery bags, golf bags, or the bald Swedish man. You can just kick underneath here as long as you have the fob in your pocket. Actually a feature that I didn't like in the beginning, but I find myself using this on my own car all the time. Although I don't throw people in the trunk of my car. Now, I always do this test when I'm reviewing vehicles, as I am 6'2". This is my driving position, and for a 6'2" person sitting behind another 6'2" person driving, it's actually not bad back here. Little tight, as again, it is a smaller SUV in the Mercedes lineup, but the back of the driver's seat actually buckles in a little bit here, so you do have better knee room than I thought you would. Headroom is actually fantastic. Yeah, very good headroom. I'm impressed. I didn't think it was going to be this good. And while we're back here, we'll take a look at the cup holders that fold out like that. Very nice. You can open this part as well. Storage compartment or a little cubby. Now before we jump in the driver's seat here, we'll just quickly mention an exterior option that our tester today does not have, and that is the night package. If it had the night package, this trim around the windows would be black, as well as the exhaust tips here. Although they do look good in chrome, we got the little AMG logo on there as well. I thought I would mention that real quick, as the GLC that we're trying out today is black. If those trim parts were black as well, it would look even better, in my opinion. It's a beautiful day out here today, but it's very windy, and I do have a wind protector on my camera, but I know that doesn't always help. So let's jump inside and take a look at this beautiful interior. Mercedes does this very, very well. So we got black Napa leather here, beautiful red contrast stitching, which is because this interior has the red pepper interior option. We got the seat controls here in typical Mercedes fashion. Everything is power, even the headrest. We got heated seats, we got ventilated seats as well. All our window controls here. Button for the tailgate, very comfortable seats. So let's jump in here. Now the GLC63 has yet to get the upgraded instrument cluster like the C63 did for 2019. So this is very familiar for me. It's exactly the same as in my C63. I love it. I don't mind the analog gauges at all. We got a flat bottom steering wheel, all our controls on each side of it. If this was an S, you guys see this little stripe here, that would be in red because of the red pepper interior. It would be in gray if you had the gray interior options and so on, but because it is just a regular 63, it stays black. Just this one little picky thing to mention there. Now we got the carbon fiber center stack, which looks great. We have the touch pad here that in my opinion should always be turned off. And we have the rotary dial where you pretty much control the infotainment system. So let's start the car up here. We're going to turn auto stop start off and open the valves right away. And you hear a difference. Now I mentioned this in a previous review. The performance exhaust, which is a $1,250 option, should be standard. It should not be allowed for any potential AMG buyer to not want that feature. It is night and day, and if you look at the price of it, it's actually probably the best value you get out of any box you check when you're speccing out an AMG. Now interesting to note, if you keep it in comfort and you just open the valves, it sounds amazing, but to get the crackles and pops, you actually have to go to the dynamic select button here, and you have to go down to Sport Plus. That's when it starts crackling. Huge difference. It's all about the sound in an AMG and of course the performance. Also worth noting is because we don't have an S model today, race mode is not available. So the top driving mode is Sport Plus. Also for 2019 we get the 9-speed multi-clutch transmission, which is basically a wet clutch torque converter, extremely quick shifting that we'll talk about more here as soon as we get out on the road. Now this one is equipped with the 360 camera, phenomenal resolution, and this is also a must-have feature that you need to check if you're speccing out one of these AMGs. But this is an AMG, so always when I'm doing a review of an AMG, I know that everyone's just waiting for the driving portion, so here we go. Now here's what I love about this SUV. I have a C63 myself, and as we mentioned, this is the SUV version of my car. My car does not come with Mercedes 4MATIC option. This thing does. So when you step on it from a standstill, it feels like this SUV has 600 horsepower because it just grips. It is so quick. And here's another thing. Yes, it's an SUV, but it doesn't feel like you're driving an SUV. It feels like you're driving a car. And that's what I love about this thing. I've driven many AMG SUVs, and this is the one that impresses me the most. And it's not even an S. It only has the 469 horsepower, but dang, this thing moves. So the GLC63 is actually 500 pounds heavier than the C63. Now that's a lot of weight, but again, it doesn't feel like it. And that's what I'm so impressed by. Not just the pulling power when you step on it, but also when you're turning. It doesn't feel like a 4,500 pound vehicle. It just leans into It is so good. Now, while I'm used to having an AMG with catless downpipes, this is of course not as loud. But one thing that I've noticed is, and that's because this is an SUV, on my C-Class, which is a coupe, if you pull down the rear seats so it's open to the trunk, you actually get more sound. It's louder. I noticed that by accident one time when I had to haul something in my car, so I pulled the rear seat down to fit whatever it is I was throwing in there, and the car right away was louder inside. Since this is an SUV and it's open all the way back, from a stock format, this actually sounds better than a C-Class coupe. Yeah, you hear the exhaust tone a whole lot more. 0 to 60 in the GLC is 3.8 seconds according to Mercedes. If you get the S version with the additional power, that chops that time by 1/10 of a second. Another thing that we talked about is that you have to get the coupe version of the GLC to be able to get the S version here in the United States. So if I was considering picking one of these up, I would still stick with the regular SUV looking body style and just have a 63. You can still tune them. Massive potential in these 4-liter bi-turbo V8s, as they are the same engines, they're just detuned. Any kind of tune, you can easily gain 100 horsepower and over 100 pound-feet of torque in this V8. It's awesome. So we quickly mentioned the transmission earlier in the video, and this is now a 9-speed upgraded from a 7-speed, which for instance is in my C63. Now, I've always been of the impression that you don't need more than 7 speeds. Why do we need 9 or 10? And I still don't know why, but I have to say with this multi-clutch transmission, again, torque converter, wet clutch, I have to say the shifts are slightly quicker. Not by much, but they're slightly quicker from the previous version of this transmission. So it's definitely very, very good. So why do I think that this is the best AMG SUV that you can buy? Well, because it doesn't feel like an SUV when you're driving it. It has the room of an SUV of this size, but it doesn't feel like it when you're driving it. Again, it's 500 pounds heavier than a C-Class coupe, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't handle like it's 500 pounds heavier. And it certainly doesn't feel like it's 500 pounds heavier when you launch it from a standstill because of the 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system. It's also the most affordable AMG SUV that you can buy with this bi-turbo V8. In my opinion, and again, that's just my opinion, it's also the best looking AMG SUV that you can buy. Possibly besides the G-Wagon, but we're talking completely different money there. It's just so good. It's also one of the quickest in the segment. The Macan Turbo can do it in 3.8 if I'm not mistaken. Same with the Stelvio Quadrifoglio from Alfa Romeo, but you don't get this when you drive them. Paf! When you shift, and just that V8 distinctive AMG sound, it's just so unique. It's so much torque. You hardly have to shift. I mean, it's got 9 gears, but I mean, you just press the gas pedal and the torque just pushes you. But from a practical standpoint, these seats are extremely comfortable. I could easily go on long road trips in these comfort seats. Visibility as well is great. You see very good out the rear window. We have, of course, blind spot information system, and with it being a Mercedes, it has great tech. We have active steering assistant. To be quite honest with you, I don't even know what that is, and that's not something I would use. We have a lane keeping system, Disctronic. You can set the adaptive cruise control at a certain speed, and if cars ahead of you slow down, your car will slow down as well to keep the distance that you have preset with Disctronic. Great sound out of the Burmeister stereo system as well. I mean, everything is just top notch about this SUV, but the main thing is, of course, the way that it drives in combination with the power, the sound, and the handling. It's just AMG. You have to drive one to understand. I love it. So again, I want to give a big thank you to my now friends at Bobby Rahal Mercedes in Wexford for providing the vehicle in today's review. If you're in the market for any kind of Mercedes and you live in the tri-state area, definitely check them out. They are great to deal with. I've bought 3 cars from them now, and it's always just an easy experience. So if you're interested, I'll leave their contact information in the description below this video. But with that being said, this review is now over. Let me know what you guys think of the GLC63 AMG, and which AMG is your favorite. Let me know down in the comments. But if this was your first time stopping by this channel and you haven't already and you want to, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.